Hi everyone, this video is for Monday. It will be for December 14th. And today in class, remember your norms. Even if there's a substitute and you are in school, the same norms apply. And today is a practice day. So you have a Pear Deck way of accessing the questions. They are from your instruction book, pages 86, 87, 88, and 89. So these questions, there are 9 of them in total, are meant to have you practice adding and subtracting decimals so that you can be ready for our quiz in iReady today. So my goal is for you to practice for about 30 minutes and then have the rest of your math block time for the quiz. So I know people work at different speeds, so I hopefully have had you try these questions, and now I am going to share the answers with you instead of offering that feedback directly on Pear Deck because I am out today. You can see if you are right by watching this video. So the first one that you were supposed to do was number 19. It dealt with a cheetah being compared with an antelope and their speeds. Because it says how much faster, you were supposed to subtract. So you can see that I've written out the numbers in black, lined up the decimal points here, and filled in this 0 in the second number, 98 and 170 thousandths. I changed that too so that each decimal had 3 places to the thousandths. When I'm subtracting, I need to make sure I'm moving from right to left, place value by place value. And you can see my trading is each trade and change is in a different color. And I got 14 and 484 thousandths as my solution. The next page had 2 questions you had to do. I highlighted in the question what was my clue on whether you add or subtract because these are all mixed up. Today you really have to understand what the question is asking to decide, do I add or do I subtract? Or in some cases, we might have to do both. This is only a one-step problem. It said at the end, how many centimeters did her hair grow in 3 months? So that is asking a total amount of growth. So I took all 3 numbers, lined them up according to the decimal point, and filled in or annexed my zeros for the second and third number so that they all had the number into the thousandths place. I did not have to do anything for the first column over here on the right except for to add. Same with the second, but it did go above 10, so that's why you see me carrying that 1, and that happened again, so you see that 14 being split up between the 1 and the 4 here. My answer is 4 and 425 thousandths. The second question asked to find a total because of this keyword at the end, all together. So you have 3 numbers because they traveled by train, bus, and car. So I have those lined up over here according to the decimal point again, annexing zeros in red. Carrying, you can see being done as well. And I am getting letter C as my correct answer. But we then had to analyze Evan and how he might have gotten choice A as a answer. So if he did not consider the decimal points, that is a way to get 985. This should be a comma, sorry. And so if you notice, I slid the 7 over to the right, and I slid the 2 3/10 over to the right, and there are no decimal points being lined up here. So that is his mistake. And if you really did add these numbers up, you would get 15. That's why I carried the 1. 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 2 is 8, and then 9, 9, and 1 just get dragged down without any regard for the decimal point. That is a way to get that choice A. It's always important to learn from others' mistakes. So that's why we analyze wrong answers. So moving on to the next page, this is page 88. I do have choice B for number 1. I did know to add because it said total, so you can see my work on the side. Even though it doesn't say show your work, I wanted to show you how I got that answer. And I typed it out, lining up all the decimal points as best I could on the computer, annexed those zeros, carried in the, after adding the hundredths place I had to carry, and after adding the tenths place I also had to carry. So that is B for number 1. Number 2, I had to subtract, and this one was a little trickier because it asks for how much did Seth drink, and in the beginning of the problem, it said how much he started out with, 1.5 liters or 1 5/10. Then he just drank some, and we don't know how much he drank. But at the end of that, he is left with 0 and 895 thousandths. So because they give us that number, the 0 and 895 thousandths, we can subtract that from the total and get how much was actually drunk by Seth. So when I subtract, I'm lining up the decimal points, and I am going to just review what happens when you have zeros in a row, because some people do get mixed up with how this trading goes. So my zooming is taking a minute to settle. And when you notice that there is a number over the 0 and you can't subtract 5 from nothing, you have to go to the next digit. But because this is also a 0, you have to go to the 5 and trade so that there is, so this is going to go down to a 4, and then you're going to make this 0 into a group of 10. Okay, so there are 10 hundredths now, but not for very long, because really we need 10 thousandths so that we can subtract 5 thousandths from it. So right away, we're going to then trade this 10 hundredths and bring it down to 9 hundredths to make it possible to have 10 thousandths. So we're doing 2 trades to get this 0 on the very end, on the right-hand side, to be a 10. So at the end, we have a 4, a 9, and a 10. Now we can subtract, and we have 5. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 9 is 0. And then here we run into another snag where we need to, we can't take 8 from 4, so we have to trade a final time, turning that into 14 tenths, and then that's how we get that 6 in the tenths. So just a little review of what happens when there's multiple zeros, because I know some of us might still need that refresher from last week. Okay, moving on. For the next one, number 3, this is actually a 2-step problem. And it explains to us that Allie, just want to make this a little bit smaller that you can see the whole problem. Allie needs 30 meters of wood to build a large wooden frame. And she bought 3 different lengths of wood, measuring different lengths. So that's the amount of materials she has to work with to build this frame. After she builds it, they want to know how much is left over. So the first step, we have to figure out the total amount of material that she has to work with. That's what you see here being added up: the 12 and a half, the 11 and 43 hundredths, and the 7 and 244 thousandths is added up. I'm carrying 2 places and getting a total of 31 and 174 thousandths. Then I have to go over and subtract 30 from it, because that's what I'm using for the project. And I get a remaining materials of 1 and 174 thousandths meters. So number 3, two-step problem. Sometimes we have to really understand what's going on, and they might ask us to both add and subtract. The final page, if you got there, dealt with comparing races. And what you really have to understand here is that the lower the score, the faster the racer, and they actually were the one that came in first place. So Teddy was the first place winner. So that means B was incorrect. When you compare Teddy and Ursula, you can see this subtraction right here is not correct as far as 0 and 4 hundredths. It's actually 303 thousandths, that difference. So that meant A was not true. When you actually subtract, that you can see in blue here, Ursula and Sammy's times, you can see that that is the difference. So that's why C is the right answer. And again, you had to understand that the slower time was actually the higher number. The faster time was actually the lower number. So that sum of 15 and 3 hundredths minus 14 and 7 tenths is actually 33 hundredths, not 30 hundredths. The last one, we had to find a sum and deal with K doing something wrong. So again, analyzing something that someone else figured out and thinking about what could she have done wrong. So estimating is always a good thing to do to make sure that you're on the right track. And definitely 9 is different than 37 and 2 tenths. So she could have written all 3 numbers with the final digits lined up on the right, disregarding the decimal points. And you can see that that wrong example is there and how she could have gotten 37 and 2 tenths. So she should have lined up the 3 numbers by their decimal points instead. So the last problem, if you got there, also analyzed what Stacy did wrong. And you can see, again, I lined up Stacy's numbers not according to the place value on the left, and then I actually showed you the problem correct because it actually asked us to do that in the problem. So explain why her answer doesn't make sense and then give the right answer. So you can see that right answer, everything lined up on the right, and then on the left, I just disregarded the number, the decimal points, excuse me, and subtracted 7 and then traded, just not with any regard to the decimal point at all. 10 minus 5 is 5, and then I got that 0 and that 1. So that is how you could have gotten 10 and 507 thousandths like Stacy. But knowing that your estimations can help you know that you're on the right track. If you're subtracting 0 and 5 tenths from a number like 16, you should be getting an answer like 15 and a half, like we have on the right. So hopefully that helped clarify any of your questions you might have had when you were practicing on your own. Good luck on your iReady quiz. Again, it's really important that you show your work on your yellow workbook so that if there's any discrepancies when I get back, we can work those out. And it is best if you get that done today so that you can have the rest of the week to work on your iReady minutes. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.